Hi, good afternoon, everybody. This is Meredith Lego, and my YouTube channel is on Ascension Science and the expansion of consciousness. And today I'm going to be touching upon a topic about peace and why it is that peace is hard to achieve, or maybe how it is that we can achieve it. And this message I'm bringing forward based upon a channeling a conversation that I had with collective consciousness. So let me switch gears and go to it. So as I was meditating, basically the following started to come through. From the realms of possibility comes everlasting peace. The science of this possibility and probability simply resides within the thoughtscapes of humans and a will to drive that vision or intention. For will, built upon a strong intention, can conquer all despite tests working to deter the end state. And so then I ended up asking, why is peace so difficult if it is so easy? The ego personality often gets in the way. So that was kind of their key answer. The will has to be right, or the will to protect. I'm sorry, I read that wrong. So the will to be right, or the will to protect against a perceived threat or lack, is more powerful than the will to love. So again, going back to the question, why is peace so difficult? If you're saying that peace is so easy, and they're saying really it's the ego that gets in the way, because when somebody is trying to prove themselves to be right all the time, or to protect against a perceived threat, that is more powerful than essentially the will to love. In those cases, threats and lack are both rooted in fear. Often, going with the flow means succumbing to a perceived fear and giving up control. It means letting go and giving in to fear. For peace is truly the easiest state to achieve. It requires the least energy exertion, but requires the most ego constraint. To simply achieve peace, one is peace, meaning not warring or creating conflict. So then I asked, in some cases, giving into peace may mean handing over power or freedom. What then? The answer was, the human soul always seeks a balance for freedom. So in the spirit of the law of equilibrium and cause and effect, if one being feels repressed or is a victim, the other is dominating and is the victimizer. Cause and effect will play out until eventually the pendulum stops and achieves neutrality. At some point, only the win-win path perseveres and lowers entropy. So that's really all they offered on the particular topic. So I think the message is pretty simple, pretty clear. But for the last sentence, they talked about the idea of cause and effect, and I did a whole video on that, and I'll include that in the link. They said in that balance, and this would be kind of the continued evolution of letting go of the ego. Anytime one party feels repressed, they'll be the victim. That naturally creates the perception of a victimizer. And usually what happens is that the victim will essentially gain their power, they'll kind of overcome, if you will. And in that feeling of overcoming, sometimes they can essentially turn the tides and cause the victimizer to be the victim as well. So in certain cases, you kind of see this playing out, in different situations, let's say in politics, where one party will feel like they're victim, and then when they're in power, then they're perceived as being the victimizer. So it constantly goes back and forth. And essentially they're saying that wheel, that cycle of time will constantly loop back in on itself until some party essentially lets go of the ego and essentially gives into love. So the will to love at that point becomes stronger than the will to be right, or the will of the fear that's associated with a perceived threat. And I know that's not always easy. And, I think still within our human species, we have a bit of ways to go before enough people are willing to give up ego. But they basically say at some point, only the win-win path preserves, because you lower entropy. So it's the most optimal path for evolution in which you're lowering entropy. And I mean, if you think about it, if you kind of really think about it, the only thing that can happen when you're going through these repeated loops of war is just self-destruction. It's like the concept of nuclear weapons. I think at some point, governments and militaries realized it was a no-win situation, because you're just going to create your own demise as a civilization. And it's, not helping anybody. So even if you were to send a bomb off to another country, eventually the outcomes of that bomb will come back and hurt you. So you're really creating total destruction for all involved. So at some point you have to let go of ego and give in to the eventuality that there can be a neutral point, and that win-win really is the best answer. So, I mean, I know there's a lot of interesting things going on. Well, it's not interesting, unfortunately, but there's a lot of unfortunate situation that's going on, in the war in Ukraine, between Ukraine and Russia right now. And this really needs to be the message for both parties. So with that, hopefully this has added some enlightenment from this collective consciousness about really what it takes for peace to happen. Really to create peace, you have to be peace, is basically what they're saying. And I hope you have a great rest of your day, and I'll see you in future videos. Thanks very much. Bye.